This time on Ontario Chronicle, I want to tell you a story that involves some chicanery, some strategic backstabbing, and maybe just a little bit of antisemitism, which resulted in the end of the 42-year-long Tory dynasty in Ontario. I want to start by taking you back to Thanksgiving 1984. Bill Davis has been Premier of Ontario for more than 13 years, and one of the things that he always did every Thanksgiving was to gather his family at his cottage on Georgian Bay, near Honey Harbor. But this year, Thanksgiving was going to be different. He had everybody assembled at the dining room table, and he said, I kind of have an important announcement I want to share with everybody here. And he shocked everybody by saying, I'm announcing that I'm going to be stepping down as Premier of Ontario. And so the Tories were off to a leadership convention called for January of 1985. 4 contenders decided to line up in order to assume Bill Davis's mantle and become the successor Premier in the province of Ontario. Frank Miller, former Treasurer, former Health Minister, former Industry Minister, on the right-hand side of the PC party, small c Conservative. Larry Grossman, also former Treasurer, former Health Minister, former Industry Minister. Downtown Toronto MPP. Yes, there was a time when Tories won seats in downtown Toronto. Dennis Timbrell, longest-serving health minister in 50 years. Agriculture minister as well. Represented Don Mills in North Toronto. And finally, Roy McMurtry, Midtown Toronto MPP, long-serving Attorney General for the province of Ontario. 4 strong, solid contenders. And Bill Davis said to all of them, remember guys, we're in government now. You can't be out there bad-mouthing each other in order to win this campaign. And it's going to be a nice, civilized convention. Now remember, these are the good old days. What do I mean by that? This was a good old-fashioned delegated convention. Arm-twisting in between ballots. You never knew where people were going to go. Candidates who dropped off the ballot had to make important decisions about who to support and who to ignore. Anyway, you had all of that strategic fun happening on the day. Okay, it's Convention Day, January 1985. The delegates vote, the vote is counted, and the first ballot results look like this. Frank Miller in first, Dennis Timbrell in second, Larry Grossman in third, Roy McMurtry in fourth and last. By rule, he drops off. Here's where the strategic backstabbing comes in. The Miller people understood the delegate counts very, very well. And so, for that second ballot, they decided to loan some of their delegate support to Larry Grossman in the hopes that Grossman would pass Timbrell on the second ballot, setting up a Frank Miller, Larry Grossman third ballot. Why did the Miller people want that? Miller well understood that a Miller-Timbrell final ballot might be hard to win, but he thought he would have a better chance of defeating Larry Grossman because Grossman was Jewish. This is 1985. There are still parts of the province of Ontario, particularly in Tory pockets, where having the last name Grossman would not be an asset. We go to the second ballot, and here come the results. Frank Miller in first, Larry Grossman in second. He vaults ahead of Dennis Timbrell, who's now in third, and he has to drop out. What's the difference between second and third? 6 votes. It sets up a third ballot between Frank Miller and Larry Grossman, and Miller wins it by 77 votes. Close, very close. It always confounded Dennis Timbrell how he somehow went from second to third on the second ballot, despite the fact that he had strong support, but he couldn't put his finger on how it happened until a couple of years after the fact. One day, Dennis Timbrell got a phone call. The person on the phone said, Dennis, I'm calling to offer you an apology. Remember all those rumors at the convention in January of 1985 surrounding how Larry Grossman went past you on the second ballot? It wasn't a rumor. It actually happened. Timbrell says, how do you know? The man on the phone says, because I was in charge of organizing it for Frank Miller's campaign. Timbrell was livid. Because, of course, Frank Miller won the convention, went on to call an election, lost the election, and the Tory dynasty came to an end. So Timbrell said to the fella on the phone, well, I hope you're happy with what you've done to our party and this province. And hung up on him.
Who was the guy?
I know who the guy was who made the phone call.
You gonna tell us?
Well, his name was... I know his daughter. She's a friend of mine. It's always an open question as to ask whether or not, had Dennis Timbrell won that convention, would the Tory dynasty have continued? I'll tell you who definitely believes that the dynasty would have continued had Timbrell won that convention. Dennis R. Timbrell.